Thank
Welcome to
you.
my Corona.
Amazing. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. So, love that background, by the way. That is so you.
Yes. Yep. Naturally, it was already on my desktop, so easy to
Exactly.
choose. Yeah.
Beautiful. So, why don't we start out? Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Yeah. Well, my name's Logan Stone. I'm a director, um, and I just moved to Los Angeles about a year ago, year and some change, to pursue directing. I'd been living in Chicago. Prior to that, doing more commercial filmmaking and kind of cutting my teeth there.
By
And
commercial, what is it? What do you mean? You mean commercials, or you mean
literally
movies?
commercials, yeah, filmmaking for brands and stuff. um so yeah, working with agencies there, but nobody really, like, when you're a little kid and you're imagining what it would be like to work in the film industry, or you're watching TV, you don't get excited about, I mean, maybe you do, but in my case, I didn't. I connected more with, like, the storytelling, right? Like, you grow up on watching shows and cartoons and the story, and not to say there's not story in ads, but it's not the end all be all. And so Los Angeles is where people go to tell stories in film. So here I am.
There you go. That's awesome.
Hmm.
So, what was it that captivated you as a little kid? What did you really like?
Oh man, I really liked as a little kid, like, the entry point, the gateway drug of film was cartoons. I was glued to the TV for watching cartoons as soon as I got home. As soon as I got home from school, I had, like, my lineup of, like, what I wanted to watch. And I remember there was this one show in particular. There's a cartoon director named Gendy Tartakovsky, and he really pioneered this way of making cartoons that was, like, it borrowed from, like, cinema, like it borrowed from spaghetti western, highly stylized cartoons. But
What did he do? Anything I'd have heard of?
he did a show called Samurai Jack.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
Samurai Jack is super super polished. He started off doing, like, Powerpuff Girls and, like, some other show, a lot of Cartoon Network shows. Dexter's Lab was, like, my first love as far as cartoons go.
All my really nerdy friends, they love each one of those.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yep. Well, count me among.
there you go. I
Yeah.
never thought of you as a nerd. So
Mm,
I thought you were cool, but now I know the truth.
huge nerd.
Yeah.
Yeah, the biggest. He actually just came out with a show called Primal, which is really cool. I watched on an airplane, and it's cool to just see him still do stuff like that. But it's just so inspiring that,
Where can you see Primal?
Primal. I saw it on Delta Airlines.
Oh, they
Uh,
just they just showed it on the.
they just, yeah, they're. I mean,
So you choose your flights based upon who has the best cartoon. I'm
yes,
guessing.
yes. I call ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so you saw the cartoons, and what inside you said, I could do that.
Well, what's interesting is, for a long time I was like, I can't do that. I couldn't do that. When I was growing up, I was, like, constantly drawing. I remember in elementary school, we had this, like, classroom economy, and one of the chief imports exports of this classroom economy was this drawing that I would draw for my peers. I would do these little drawings of my dog, and I literally had a back ordered list of, like, who I needed to draw dogs for, and the currency were these eraser tops that you'd stick on the back of your eraser. Was like, that was the currency that we used to barter with each other. And I had the experience of being, like, this, like, badass artist that, like, I just had a case full of eraser tops. Like, I was rolling in it back in the day. And I was always known as that, like, really creative kid in the class. And then by the time high school came around, I was said, you kind of, like, start buying into the story that, like, you can't really, like, art isn't really, like, a feasible thing to do. Mixed with, I started hosting a lot of parties, and, like, sports came around, and it was just kind of time to put that in the back burner. And so I ended up going to this college. I followed my dad's footsteps and went to this business school in Dallas. I did that for 1 year, and I was like, this can't be it. Um, and so one of my friends he was doing communications at DePaul in Chicago, and they're on a quarter system. SMU is on semester system. So when I was still in class, or when I was on break, he was still in class. So he said, you know what, like for your spring break, why don't you take a week, come visit me here. We'll go out, we'll have fun. And you can sit in and audit some classes while we're here. So I was like, fuck it. Like that sounds like, let's go. That sounds great. So I go in, and my first taste of film ever was, I watched, we get into this class. It was introduction into film. And I remember to this day, the movie, we watched a movie for like the first half of class, and it was Chicken Run. We watched Chicken Run. And right away I was like, this is amazing. For class, we get to sit around, watch movies and talk movies after. Like that's the dream. I could do that for years. That's great. But right in the middle of the movie, the professor stops it and he zooms in on this bucket in this corner of the frame. If you've never seen Chicken Run, it's about these chickens who are trying to break out of the coop. There's a big metaphor to like Nazi Germany, and that these chickens are being cooped up and turned into chicken pot pies. And so they need to break out of the chicken coop and escape. So the professor freezes the frame and zooms in on this bucket, and it's just this dented, rusty bucket. But the lesson was that because this dented, rusty bucket was made of clay, it's a claymation movie, the bucket didn't exist before this. So it was someone's job to design that bucket or that table, or, they must have come up with 10 different designs for that exact bucket, levels of rust and how many dents. And it was all designed to elicit this emotion, even if it's just tucked in the corner. The level of rust on the bucket mixed with the color, the muted blue uniforms that they wore, mixed with, all these little choices all added up to this emotion elicited from you, this experience you had. And I just connected with that as like, how far could that rabbit hole go? And I like transferred like overnight, basically.
You'll be happy to know that I've seen all the important films ever made, including Chicken Run.
Good. Okay, good.
So we can continue with the interview.
Okay, great. Yeah, it is up there. Chicken Run's.
It's underrated for sure.
It really is.
Yeah, it's not something you really want to take you think, oh, it's great for little kids. It kind of terrifies them a little bit. Mm-hmm. Kind of like, what was that pig movie? The won the Academy Award, the second one.
The pig movie?
Babe,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Really terrifying stuff. You'd never take your kids to that.
Mm-mm. Yeah, you really don't want that.
You would, because you wouldn't know any better. You think you're taking them to a nice. No, let's disturb the living crap out of kids. But it was a good movie. Anyhow, so you saw that in class and you thought, I want to design buckets.
I thought how I kind of designing buckets is part of it, right? Like it's more about how can you elicit a reaction in an audience? How do you get an audience to have the experience that you want? And like the bucket is like 10% of it. It's when does the music swell? It's what colors am I using? It's the dialogue, to like, there's a brilliant move of Harrison Ford in Star Wars, right? Princess Leia says, I love you. And the original dialogue, he said, I love you too. And then he gets taken away. But they improv'd it at the last minute and he says, I know, is the new line, right? So it's like, it's all these little, it's the bucket as much as it is the color palette, as much as it is the editing. Are they quick edits? Are they not? Are they, what dialogue are you having? It's all these little choices, but all those choices added together that's greater than the sum of the parts. And it's a fascinating approach of how specific can we get in a, creating an experience.
So I can almost hear, like, in your mind, you want to adjust all those dials.
Yeah, right. Well, I think the mark of a good filmmaker or storyteller is being aware of decisions that you're making and decisions that you're not making. Like if you're shooting against a white wall, like even if you consciously didn't choose, we're going to shoot it against this wall, you are deciding that that's going to be part of your color palette. That's going to be, so it's bringing awareness to the creative decisions is like half of it.
Yeah. For people that aren't in the movie business or don't know anyone in it, there's so many things that they just don't even think about. But like you just said, color palette. There's a whole part of the movie making, which is deciding the color palette of your movie. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. I mean, like, so we connect, So as human beings, we connect a lot to different. There's this whole science of color theory. If you look at any major brand, the color of the logo is, they spend $100,000, maybe more, to determine like what color and what logo they're going to go with to represent the face of their identity. So like if you looked at like McDonald's, for example, is like red and yellow, right? So red triggers that kind of like animal, like lizard brain response for like blood and food and hunger, right? Same thing with like, let's see, Chase Bank is like a big blue, like hexagonal square thing.
Right.
But like blue is like, it's safe and it's stable and it's even and it's, I don't want to relate to my bank as something exciting. I just want it to be there and consistent and, certain about it.
Yeah.
So it's
I
like,
mean, when I don't know if you remember, but Citibank was taken over by Travelers Insurance. And I always thought Citibank had a really strong and powerful logo.
yeah.
And then they added this umbrella thing to it. And ever since that, they bought it. They just weakened I look at Citibank differently. It's very strange. I mean, there's no reason why I should, but it just Umbrella was a really good, powerful logo for Travelers. But when you start mixing and matching your storytelling, you degrade both, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And it is storytelling. It's a science. There's books written on what's called semiotics, and it's the study of how we interpret images. So yeah, to your point, like, the umbrella as a what that image communicates to us might mean something totally different. And like, it might be relevant to Travelers Insurance, but not banking.
That's right. Just a different thing, but egos get involved. Having been involved working for the Fortune 500 when takeovers happen, it's amazing how positional people get about, my company's acquiring you, so we should use our stuff.
Yeah.
Whether or not the acquired company is better, and how that sometimes happens.
Yeah.
So getting back to, so you're sitting in the class, you're watching Chicken Run, and you see that, this could be something for you. So what happens next?
So I started diving really deep into just like the art of storytelling and the art of what components go into storytelling. And it was interesting because, my initial decision to do business in Dallas, I kind of did it as like a catch-all, right? Like just studying business, it was literally business school. Like I took business classes. It just sounds like such a safe, like a catch-all umbrella, right? Bring it full circle here. And what I found was that by taking storytelling classes, storytelling actually is more ubiquitous. It's everywhere. It's actually the catch-all. Storytelling actually is the catch-all. From marketing, like there's this book called The Story Brand, where any brand that's like worth its salt is framing themselves as the mentor. There's this very specific section in the hero's journey called the meeting with the mentor. The mentor is like Obi-Wan or Morpheus or, Hagrid or whatever. Right. And, the companies that do really well frame themselves, the customer's the hero, but they're the mentor. They're just helping the customer slay the dragon. Whereas to your point about like where egos get involved, a lot of companies like to say we're the hero. Right. But like Nike's a perfect example of like, just do it. They wear the hero archetype, but they're aware that it's actually the athlete who's the hero. So I found that like, the more that I studied storytelling, the more I saw the applications to everything else. And the more, as human beings, we're storytellers. And that I just learned that not only was that more interesting to me, but it's actually more applicable to like, there's more use I can get out of that than just, I won't say more use, but it was just, if it was equal uses I could get out of business or storytelling, it's like I would pick storytelling. Just more flavor.
Well, storytelling is more the pure skill.
Yeah.
And then business is a specific application within that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, so then what? So then you decide, okay, I'm going to go do this.
Yeah. So not all my credits transferred from Dallas. So I hustled and graduated on time, and decided to live in Chicago and got involved with. I started. My dad was a photographer. He's like kind of like an amateur photographer at my school. He would go to all my sports games, and like my sister, I had one little sister, and he would go out and shoot photos of all of us. And so I was like around cameras a lot. And for my birthday one year when I was in college still, he got me a camera. He got me like, it was just entry level, like gets the job done. But going to school in downtown Chicago was the first time I'd really lived in like a big city, coming from St. Louis. So I started just like taking photos. I started taking a lot of photos and learning cameras, and like taking a lot of terrible photos at first, like fucking bottom, like terrible. And but pretty soon I got like pretty good. And every day on the way to school, you practice. And I put them up. I got in some shows and like a gallery. And pretty soon, before I knew it, I had people asking me to shoot their movies, shoot their short films, shoot their music videos. And it was really just like, I realized that like kind of by following my own excitement, it just kind of like worked itself out. Like I didn't have to try, right? It was just, if anything, it was more practice and like, how can I allow myself to just do what I'm naturally drawn to doing and called to doing? And then, after shooting enough of my friends or other people in the community, in the film community, I kind of started to realize like, man, a lot of these stories, it's not like they're bad stories, but like I would just do this differently. So I kind of decided like, what would it be like if I stopped being a cinematographer and started writing my own stuff? And I can still shoot my own stuff, but like the hunger gets there to like, I want to tell my own stories. And yeah. And then I started, by the time I graduated college, I had done a short film. I was lucky to win some awards for that short film. And then that began a process of doing my first feature film. And yeah, it's just been project after project since then.
And so can you talk a little bit about, so you do a commercial. What is it?
Yeah.
You show your film and then someone's interested in doing the commercial. Do they come to you? Do you go to them? How did that work?
To shoot, like you're saying, to shoot someone's,
So
like shoot a commercial?
You're doing commercials in the Midwest, right?
Yeah, right.
So how did you wind up, directing a commercial or doing a commercial for someone?
Yeah, well, it's all word of mouth. So I had done this music video for this artist, and I ended up meeting and connecting with some of my still best friends to this day. I connected with them. They owned a camera rental house. And so it was just kind of like this match made in heaven where, they wanted people to see, hey, look what artists are creating with our gear. Come, so they would basically give me access to any of the gear that I wanted to have. And they put me in touch with a lot of these agencies who were also renting from them. And it was just such an organic process where it was good to have like fans in the sense of people who are actually excited about showing your work to other people who happen to be at like the center of community. And so it just, yeah, I don't know. It was just looking back on it now, it was just it was like automatic, it really didn't require a lot of effort.
Well, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on was I know that like you're a young guy working towards a success, having success, doing things that people, I think if you ask the average person in LA or the average person anywhere, how hard is it to direct or make your own movie or what have you?
Yeah.
But so they would think that you can't. And so it's interesting to hear your path. I think the thing that people get confused about when they look at how someone gets to do something that is very difficult to do, they think, well, okay, Logan could do that, but I couldn't do that. And what I'm trying to tease out is, what is it that you're actually doing? And what I'm hearing you're actually doing is you're going to the core skills and you're getting better at what you do and you enjoy what you're doing. So you got better at taking pictures because you were enjoying taking pictures. You're
Yeah.
getting better at storytelling because you're interested in storytelling. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it was easy. Maybe you're just lucky and you were born under the right star. But I don't think so. From
Yeah.
knowing,
When I look back on it, the the thing that's led to the most success and the most, it's like I realize now, after moving here and striving for all this stuff, it's like I realized that I had this belief about it being like it had to be this struggle, right? Like it has to be this hard work, that if I work hard enough, and that's not to like downplay the merit of like working hard, but what I realized is that it really is about just like allowing yourself to just pursue the thing that you're already drawn to doing, and letting go of the attachment of it looking any kind of certain way, or like what you have to be. I need to be a director because it will look, I'll look away, right? And when you actually just like let go, and it's really, the practice is in allowing. It's in allowing yourself. You can set the intention. You're going to set the intention and design it that like, I'm going to approach this project with, like, I'm going to create it this way, or I'm going to intend it to turn out this way. But at a certain point, it's like, something that I appreciate about you is that you really taught me a lot this past year about like listening. And I see how, everything, how you do one thing's how you do everything. My ability to listen to another person in conversation also translates to my ability to listen to like what wants to be made. I think about in the post-production process, I like to equate making a movie to baking a cake. And it's like, at the beginning, when you're writing the script, it's like, okay, we're going to make this multi-layer carrot cake, right? You write it up that way. So what you do is then you break down the script and you look at the ingredients. Okay, so in order to make this multi-layer carrot cake, we need to have this scene with this prop, with this da-da-da-da-da, 2 eggs and the cup of milk and da-da-da-da-da, right? And so then you go to the store, and going to the store is the same thing as going and shooting the movie. So you cross things off your list. Okay, got it. Put that in the cart. Okay, we shot that scene. Got it. And sometimes when you're at the store, they don't have the carrot cake. They don't have the exact flour that you wanted. The lighting, it ended up raining on your big climax shooting day. So you have to say, okay, well, all right, let's call an audible now. Let's listen to let's not force an outcome in the form of what we had to shoot it this way. What's another way that we can fulfill on the purpose of the scene, but still like not be attached to the way that it had to turn out, right? So you might get, maybe it's not a cake. Maybe we're making carrot cupcakes. Got it. Okay. So then you call the audible and you come back to your house and you come back to your kitchen, and the kitchen is like the post-production editing. And so at that point, now you have to watch the footage. You watch it all back. And this is really where the listening kicks in, is like, what do we actually have now? We might have intended to go make this multi-layer carrot cake. We called the audible on the cupcakes, right? But for whatever reason, the footage that we have doesn't support that story that we wanted to tell. But there is a story here somewhere. So it's about listening to the footage and like letting go of that attachment and like cutting together and making the story that is present in the footage rather than like what you originally set out to go make. So it's definitely like every movie, there's like a little spiritual practice in there, about, letting go of attachment and, letting like recognizing that everything that happens while you're shooting is happening for you somehow. Cause if you take the other approach, then you very quickly will have a bad time.
bad experience.
Yeah.
Interesting. I wonder how much in Chicken Run that was their experience as well. They thought they were making a nice little children's movie.
Yeah. Right.
And it turned out that there was this disturbing thing that got shot. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I'm just speculating.
Who knows? But it like, that's a brilliant point. And that like, I wonder if it went down that way, at what point did they say, okay, well, what we have supports this kind of darker thing. This is just a darker story now,
Pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So what project have you been working on? What film have you been working on lately?
Mm.
And how is the situation impacting it?
Oh man. So I just finished my first feature. I when I say I just finished it, I finished it a year ago. But it's basically the story of it's kind of like a parable in a way, in that it's about this doorway to paradise, and it centers around this character, this guy Connor, who lives in this decaying hometown. The hometown's just, it's in such a state of disrepair that everyone's trying to flee and go find this rumored doorway to paradise, and no one's really sure that it's real. And it's also because because the town's in such a state of disrepair, and people are leaving so quickly, that they're declaring this martial law around it, that no one can leave. No one can leave. It's like you're going AWOL. If you leave your responsibilities to the town, you're a traitor. So there's this law that you can't leave, and how topical that we're in the middle of this.
That's hilarious, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So this character works for the town, and he's an interrogator for the town. He interrogates people that left, were captured, and brought back. And in the middle of one of these interrogations, to open the movie, he learns that that there's this VHS tape, this rumored VHS tape that proves that the door is real. So it's not even a rumor anymore. So he goes, finds the door, and pretty quickly recognizes that, like, man, if this is real, like I could, like that, this paradise certainly sounds pretty nice. So he makes a break for it, and the town comes after him, and the whole way, right, pretty soon he's out of resources, he's out of water, he's dehydrated, the door happens to be located in the desert, so he's suffering from heat stroke, and he's literally losing his mind. And the way to find the door is that you have to follow the little whispers of the universe, the synchronicities and the recurring images that pop up that say, okay, you know what? I keep seeing this bird, and I'm just going to follow this way because I don't know where else to go. And that's what my gut is saying. So again, this theme of listening keeps coming up, and I won't ruin it for you, but to your point about like the situation impacting the movie, I remember the climax. He's right in front of the door. We're set to shoot this scene where, it's our last day with this one actress, and we shot the climax. We shot all the desert stuff in New Mexico, in a town called Belen, which is an hour outside of Albuquerque. And there was we had perfect weather the whole time. And then we had this one, the climax where it's the hero. And then there's one thing standing in the way of the hero making it to the door. And this storm starts rolling in. My producer comes over and says, so as it would turn out, Belen is due for like its worst storm in like the last 100 years. That's like the what so right now is that like they're saying there's going to be tornadoes, there's these storms coming in, like it's going to get really hairy here pretty soon. And so the potential way is to say, there was two options to go with. One was there was three options. One is we can sit there and deliberate and try to figure out the best way. The second route was we can just say, okay, it's canceled. Let's get back home. Let's get to safety. And then the third way was like, this storm is for us. Like this storm was brought here just like it was the story of the film, right? Like everything that's happening to this character is happening so the character can get to paradise. So the story of the story of the movie was the story of the production, and that like our paradise was coming away with like amazing footage and a great film. And so made the call to like, we're going to lean into this. We're going to lean into this shot. We're going to lean into the storm. And it is my favorite shot of the whole movie. It looks like it was shot on a $10 million soundstage where this storm is coming in behind this antagonist character. And it literally looks like we shot it on another planet. Where the sun is setting right beneath these harsh like clouds. I can't do it justice, but it truly made it. So I'm grateful that like we recognize that like that the story of the production was the story of the film was the story of the production, and we went forward and it paid off.
That's amazing.
Yeah, man.
So if our audience wants to see your movie, how would they do that?
So I'm actually talking to distribution this week. So they might see it sooner than later on something like Netflix or Amazon. But in the meantime, the trailer, if they want to see the trailer, they can go to my website, loganstone.com. They'll at least see that, and I'll be able to update that as it goes along. But yeah, it's
I
called,
shouldn't
the
ask
movie
you a
is called,
question. Go ahead.
I was going to say it's called Noise and Color is the name of the movie.
Noise and color.
Yeah.
I know I shouldn't ask you a question I already know the answer to, but if they want to sign up for a mailing list
Ah,
to get
yes.
updated when it's out.
There is a mailing list on there as well. Actually, if they want to find that mailing list, they can go to, it's on loganstone.com. I recently I made this this instant epic story generator, where they can click a button and then it populates with 5 random fields, and they get the hero's name, their flaw, their occupation, their objective, and their obstacle. And really, it's just a free tool for storytellers to like get inspiration. If they scroll to the bottom of that page, there's a link where you can sign up. And
Well, I was actually thinking that maybe you would take us through this because I thought your video was hilarious on that.
oh, thank you.
Yeah, but before that, so
Mm.
let me finish my question about the movie. So, do you think your movie wound up better by taking the story that wanted to be told as opposed to the one you were committed to telling before?
Yes. Yeah, I do. I think and it's not a finished product. And it's one of those things too, where because it's the first one and I'm just critical of it anyway, there's some storytelling aspects of it I'm just critical of. But all things considered for a first movie, yeah, I think it was definitely the right choice to just listen to what story was present and just let that story come out instead of forcing my own agenda.
Right.
Yeah.
So now with all of this lockdown, I'm guessing it's not possible for you to do a lot of shooting. So I was going to ask you, which is a segue back to your epic story generator. So what have you been keeping yourself busy with?
Yeah. Throughout this, I'd had this idea for a while, and it was kind of the perfect storm amidst this Corona thing. The idea is to just start telling stories to camera. I've had the experience of, I'm aware that the theme right now of this conversation is just listening to allowing what wants to be birthed creatively. And so I had kept telling myself, I had the experience in the past of telling myself, I can't go make the movie because I don't have the camera right now. I don't have we're under quarantine. We're whatever reason, whatever stupid excuse I gave myself. I had this idea to start telling stories to camera. And this idea was birthed around having a random story generator where I'd get these elements of story, and then I would improv a feature film script in 5 minutes or less. I'd basically just write it live on camera off the top of my head. And that has now turned into a YouTube channel. And the series is called Instant Epic. It's under the YouTube channel, is under my name, Logan Stone. And we do it every Wednesday at noon. And so the second episode's coming out tomorrow.
Okay, so there's your website.
Yep. So scroll down to the bottom. And hit, right there, that Instant Epic Story Generator button.
Okay.
So it takes us to this. And this is the primary tool that we use on the show. So if you want to click that spin button. So all the fields should start spinning here. Now it's not showing that on my end here, but just hit stop.
They're spinning very quick. It's like a Superman thing. It's going faster than the eye can see.
Right. Cool. So just keep hitting stop for each of those fields, kind of like a little slot machine.
Okay.
Paul Lufrio, who won the lottery and is cursed, must repair their home while being taken advantage of. Yeah. So what we would do on the show is we'd go through the entire hero's journey and, apply these story elements to the hero's journey. And the idea is that we do that under 5 minutes. Now it definitely takes longer than 5 minutes, but it's edited down into 5 minutes.
Yeah. Well, I watched your, I guess it's your first video.
Yeah.
This, it's hilarious.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So what are you trying to accomplish by doing this? What is it? What's the constraint that you're looking to
Yeah. So the primary thing, really, what it is it's like beyond the fun that we have, and the hilarity of it. Really, like it's the goal to show myself and to show others that like the way to just, again, it's the allowing game, it's the surrender game of it. When I get rid of it needing to be amazing or it to be perfect or anything, and I can just, the constraint of it being random, and especially under 5 minutes, it just takes all the pressure off. It takes all the pressure off, and it's like I give myself the permission slip to like get messy and for it to be not perfect, basically. So it's just it's a lesson in seeing it in action, what it looks like to just like be in this state of play and be in this yeah, just like giving myself the permission slip.
because what's so interesting about it, like it's watching you work, watching how you think,
Yeah.
but I see an applicability. I mean, not all of us want to be directors,
Yeah.
but all of us, as you said earlier, there's an applicability to the story that we're trying to tell.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people call me and want like help. Oh, I want to find a job. What kind of, can you look at my resume, what have you? And what's interesting is I'll send them here when they want to build their resume. Well, what is the story you want to tell?
Mm.
I actually think there's a little business idea for you.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm.
rejigger your tool to talk about the story you want to build for your career. What is the story you're trying to tell around your career? What are the challenges you had?
Interesting.
Yeah, when I was a Fortune 500 executive, I interviewed a ridiculous number of people for different jobs. And what I found really interesting, so I interviewed a lot of project managers. And what I found really hilarious is, um, I don't know, let's say out of 100 project managers I interviewed, every one of them brought every one of their projects on time and under budget. It
Mm.
was like a miracle. I never interviewed a project manager that had a project that was late. And
Yeah.
yet, at the time, 70% of projects were over budget and late. So
Yeah.
it's like, where are these project managers with the late projects, right?
Yeah.
What I found more interesting was when I found one or two that would tell me honestly what the challenges were and what it took when you had a project that went south. And people think that project managers are solely responsible for the success of the project. And the reality is that if the people that want to get the project done aren't cooperating, if there's unrealistic budget or unrealistic amount of scope that they want in, there's only so much a project manager is going to be able to do. And a good project manager, what's brilliant about them is they're able to tell you, you know what, you're running over budget, you're running late, you need to, it's not just the nagging aspect, it's actually understanding the relationship between scope and resources and timeline.
Mm.
And so similar with your storytelling. So if someone's looking at their career and they want to be clear on what their resume should say, if you've been in business for 5 years, you graduated college, you did your first job, maybe your second job. There's a story to what's going on in your career, what's good, what's not so good, what you're learning. And you can use this epic storytelling mechanism to actually go through and explain and kind of make a guideline for your resume. But more importantly, go ahead. You were going to say?
Yeah, no, that's so 100%. I agree with so what I like to do with this mechanism. So we always take, these are just the elements, right? So really what it is, the practice is in applying the elements to the hero's journey. And I think the hero's journey is, if you're familiar, well, I guess for the listeners, if they're not familiar with what the hero's journey is, it's this guy, Joseph Campbell, was a mythologist, and he went around the world and studied these fables and myths and, legends from throughout history. And if you've ever played a game of like telephone with 10 people, you know that by the 10th person, even like a simple phrase, it gets so hard to understand that simple phrase. Or it's not the same phrase. But he discovered that these different parts of the world were telling the same story, even ones that there was no way for them to communicate to each other at the time. And so basically the hero's journey is this, he found that all these stories had the same base element. It was the same story, but just with different characters. So it's this human story, and we could just relate to it so much as human beings. So to your point about like having people, like the advice that I would give, or that I have given in the past, is, someone who's trying to figure out their career or something, apply your own life to the hero's journey as you're the hero, right? And like one of the best things about this is like, if someone comes in a time of crisis, or in a time of like, in the low point is a part of the hero's journey, but the low points it's imperative that that's actually where the character experiences this death and rebirth into this new, they have a part of them, the way that they were being has died off, and they've now rebirthed, they've transcended their past patterns into, the type of person that they're going to need to be in order to like slay the dragon. So, what I'm getting out of what you're saying is to offer here are the steps of the hero's journey, map out where you are at in your own hero's journey. And that like, in that way, they might have the experience of authoring their own story, and, where they want to go, and like to have kind of like control and power over it, or have some kind of perspective shift or something.
So to take that to the next level,
yeah.
The reason I started My Corona was to have conversations to figure out, from a business, on the practical level and all the way up to the creative level, what can you do while you're locked down? What can we do to get ourselves out of this situation, on the practical side? What can we do to be safe? What can we do as business people to bring, maybe create more masks, as we see that people are doing? What can we do around using our ingenuity to improve our situation? And so what I'm hearing from you that is so interesting is there's an opportunity for us to take this coronavirus situation as our obstacle. What would you call it in the hero's journey?
Yeah, this would be an obstacle. It's not the dragon to slay, but it's certainly in the way.
Yeah. And so we get to write our own story. So if you wanted to learn more about the hero's journey, I mean, I know you could read Joseph Campbell, but having read Joseph Campbell, that's that takes something. That's not a low level stuff. Anything else you've got on a practical level to get?
So I do actually. Just this last Saturday, I filmed an online course that's going to live on. You'll be able to opt in on that same Instant Epic Story Generator page. So that, if you want a quick, like a Cliff Notes, basically by the end of this course, you're going to know what the steps of the hero's journey are. How do you apply really loose story elements like the ones that we saw generated randomly? And by the end of it, I don't know if you are a storyteller, whoever's listening to this, if you have aspirations to work in film, but by the end of it, you'll have a completed short film script or feature length script, beaded out and like blocked out step by step. But for the application we're talking about, you'll be able to see the steps of the hero's journey and apply yourself as the character in those steps.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, going from, the creative side to the what are you doing to deal with your day to day? Like, what does it look like? And how are you, besides the creative side, you're such a social person. How are you dealing with it on a social level?
On a social level, it's important still to stay in touch. Like Zoom calls like this are huge. I'll say, like, honestly, I kind of have the experience that this is kind of business as usual in a way, that I'm not really doing anything different. I'm not really altering my behavior based on Corona. Yes, there's, like there's those opportunities to get together in person are gone, but outside of that, it's just, how can you approach it with no problem? And how can you, live in, something like, if it looks like having more Zoom calls, or if it looks like FaceTiming on the phone, or, I'm lucky in that I have 2 housemates. So there's still, I don't think I could get through it if I didn't have people, next door to me. So that's huge. But yeah, I think, the other thing is I've had the experience in the past of looking for social outlets when I was trying to avoid my, like what I wanted to do, or again, to bring it full circle. Like if I had this idea, this creative thing that I was so enrolled in creating this thing, it's almost like the amount of, like, my room is never cleaner when I have something that I really like I really need to go make this thing, right? I'll find every other excuse I got to go do my laundry. That's why I can't go write the script or something. And so I find that what's really nice, honestly, what a huge benefit of Corona is that, like, those opportunities, like the opportunity for me to escape and resist those creative impulses are kind of out the window. So I'm like, I really just, I almost have to sit and face it. Not have to, but
What's it gonna do?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Man, I'm having such deja vu right now.
Why is that?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Oh, well, maybe last time the simulation ran, we had this conversation.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Round 1.
Beautiful.
Yeah, man.
So what are you doing for exercise?
For exercise, I have a routine every Tuesday, Thursday. We do this thing, like an hour-long workout in the morning. So I had one earlier, 8:30 to 9:30. And then
what do you do in your workout? Just like body weight, calisthenics?
Yeah, like we've got weights, but they're not really like super heavy weights. I think it's really just about, for me, it's about like having functional strength, especially my back. So it's a lot of stretching. It's a lot of, I've realized that I used to just go through a workout or some kind of exercise with just like how fast can I get this done? If part of the exercise was that I had to do 10 reps, I would just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 complete. Okay, next thing. And I just saw how I was robbing myself of, like, I was resisting being with the potential discomfort of the exercise in the first place. So how that's changed now is I will intentionally seek out an uncomfortable position, some kind of tender spot or something that I would tremble. My body didn't want to be there for a while, and just how long can I be with that until that sensation goes away? Or how slowly can I do 10 push-ups? Another interesting thing too is Wim Hof breathing. As the house, we've gotten into Wim Hof breathing, and that's been.
Did you do the full ice baths and what have you?
We don't do ice baths, but I've been doing cold showers for a while, so that's kind of supplementing the ice baths for now. But
yeah. Well, I know if you want to get to the next level, I think CK does the entire
the whole thing.
The whole thing, yeah. Just take a look at it.
That's a brave.
You want to get uncomfortable.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So for the viewers that haven't heard of Wim Hof, he is an well, why don't you say, since you're doing the Wim Hof?
He's a Dutch man who he holds like 18 Guinness World Records for, a lot of them have to do with extreme cold. He's like climbed Everest in swim trunks. And what he's been able to do is access control of the body and the adrenal system through his breath. So he pushes himself. He uses extreme cold and breath work, and he's done things like he's had scientists inject him with E. coli, and he can just suppress the body's autoimmune function, or he literally just he just controls his body to such a degree, has such control over it. It's such a practice of mind over matter that he just doesn't get sick at will. He doesn't get sick. He can regulate his body temperature. And so, his whole practice is hyper oxygenation of the body through intense full breath. He's got a cult following around the world pretty much.
Yep. It's funny because he's got this whole thing about breathing and controlling and not being stressful in very stressful situations.
Yeah.
Watching his video, I get stressful. I need the breathing just watching him.
Yeah.
He had this one video, I think in the, I don't know, North Pole, South Pole, where he just, he's got an ice lake and he goes and he swims in I think he was just he had a bathing suit basically for modesty, but otherwise he'd be totally naked. And he underneath the frozen water, go from one ice hole to the next.
Yes.
And he was like, if you listen to the interview or the discussion on it, he's like, well, the one thing I didn't think about, I should have worn goggles because it was so cold I couldn't see because it froze my eyes.
Man.
So the big trouble he had is he couldn't see where the hole was, but he was holding his breath, no problem going over that. I was just freaking out just looking at that video.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty amazing. So you do that how often?
Well, for the last few years, probably for the last 5 years, I've been doing what's called Apache cold showers, where you just take a normal shower, but for the last minute, you flip it to as cold as it goes. And I believe the story of that is that when the pilgrims came and settlers and everything came to America, they saw that the Native Americans would bathe their children in these extremely cold, like small lakes and ponds and stuff, especially in the winter. And so they were like horrified. They were like, why are you doing this to your children? And the mothers there that were bathing their children would say, well, it makes them brave. And so it's a process of like surrendering to the cold and like, what would it be like if, rather than like tensing up, what if I could like sing, like, what if I could, enjoy it so much to the point where I can like dance in the cold water or like sing deep, long, and so it's like, it's just another access to being comfortable with, what it literally is doing is conditioning your nervous system. So you're not in that fight or flight. If you can survive that and even intentionally steer into it, then like where else will that bleed into in life? But yeah, it's been huge. Plus there's health benefits like your skin and your hair and your teeth and,
So do you sing now when it gets cold?
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely.
What do you sing?
I got my playlist, but yeah, I don't know. I like to sing.
I'm thinking Gloria Gaynor, "I Will Survive" would be your
I will survive. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Maybe something more inspirational. I don't know. Just very curious. Maybe Pavarotti. Trying to imagine what your go-to. So what is your go-to song?
My go-to singing?
Yeah.
It rotates around, but right now I'm a big fan of there's really 3 bands. The first band is Unknown Mortal Orchestra. I actually borrowed the intro music for Instant Epic, the story show, is from a song called Jello and Juggernauts by them. And so they've got a lot of good songs I like to listen to, and so I'll sing those. Those are fun. And then the other one would be like Tame Impala. If you know Tame Impala, is another good band.
All right. Well, next time we're gonna have to get you to actually sing.
Yeah, perfect.
Are you a good singer?
I think so. It's fun, when you let go of it, like sounding any certain way, and you can just let it go.
I'm excellent in the shower. That's
when the acoustics. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I think the water really helps.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, man.
All right. Anything else you want to share about what you're up to?
Nothing comes to mind.
All right.
If I could share anything, it would say I'd tell any listener to if you were to think of some kind of creative thing that you've been putting off doing, to just commit to, they say like writing isn't the hard part, it's sitting down to write. So make it a daily habit. If you're so called, my invitation to you is to set some kind of alarm clock where, if it's writing a script or if it's building a chair out of wood or whatever, and you've been putting it off, or starting a podcast, that commit to just sitting down and facing it for like 5 minutes. And if by the end of the 5 minutes you're still like, I'm not about this right now, then you can like give it a break until tomorrow or something. But yeah, it's really just like get in the process of like facing it, because if it's on your mind, then there's a part of you that like it wants to come out, and just the practices and just letting it happen. So that's what I want to say.
Words to live by. Logan, thank you very much for the conversation. I love talking to you as always.
Yeah, back at you. Thank you for having me.
All right.
Awesome.